12.3 Types of Capacitors. Capacitor is mainly categorized into two different categories: fixed capacitors and variable capacitors. These are the two main categories. And under the fixed capacitors, it includes mica capacitors, ceramic capacitors, electrolytic capacitors, and a few more different kinds of capacitors. In this class, we focus on these three. For mica capacitors, mica is just a group of natural minerals. Silver mica capacitors are the capacitor use mica as dielectric, which means we put mica materials between those parallel plates or the parallel conducting plates to boost the capacity of the capacitor, which is called a capacitance. There are two types of mica capacitors: clamped mica capacitors and silver mica capacitors. Their main differences are the precision, tolerance, stability, and also voltage ratings. For example, the minimum tolerance for a silver mica capacitor values can be as low as plus minus 1%. This is much better than practical or other kinds of capacitors. This is an advantage for this kind of capacitor: high precision, also very stable, very accurate. The range normally is from 1 picofarad to 1 microfarad. The voltage range is from 100 volt DC to 1000 volt DC in general. And in terms of the size, this type of capacitors have all kinds of size. The mica capacitors mainly used at high frequencies since it's very stable with high precision, such as in the RF circuits. Another type of capacitor is the ceramic capacitors. This type of capacitor uses ceramic material as the dielectric. There are two classes of ceramic capacitors: Class 1 and Class 2. For Class 1, ceramic capacitors are used where high stability and low losses are required. These kind of capacitors are used for less sensitive applications. The thermal stability is around plus and minus 15%. In the operating temperature range, the nominal values tolerance are around 20%. There are lots of applications for using this kind of capacitor, such as we can use them to make the high voltage laser power supplies. We can use them to make the circuit breaker. We can use them to make the DC to DC converters, and so on. Another commonly used type of capacitor is called electrolytic capacitors. This kind of capacitor is used for electrolytic to achieve larger capacitance. As you can see, here are the photos for this kind of capacitor. Most of the time, this capacitor has a cylindrical shape, a big cylinder with two wires, either the two legs, the two wires on the same side, or one wire on each side, like a sausage. If we look closer to this capacitor, we can see there's a strap printed on the surface of this capacitor. And if you look even closer, it has this sign. It is a negative sign, which means the legs attached to this ribbon, or the leg this ribbon is pointing at, connects to the lower voltage in the circuit. This implies this kind of capacitor has polarity. If the capacitor is connected incorrectly, there's a chance we can blow up this capacitor. So the key is orientation is very important, since electrolytic capacitor has polarity. So let's look at this table. It has polarity. Precision normally is very high for electrolytic capacitor. The range of this type of capacitor is usually from 1 microfarad to 200,000 microfarad. It can work in the voltage range from 100 volt DC to 2500 volt DC. The typical dielectric constant is around 1200. And most of the time, this capacitor has a very small size. The drawback is low breakdown voltage, typically of maximum voltage of 350 volt, high amounts of leakage. Before measuring the capacitance of the capacitor or putting this into the circuit, we need to discharge capacitor. This is how we discharge a capacitor. Just grab a screwdriver and then connect the screwdriver's metal piece to both legs of the capacitor. If this capacitor still stores some charges, these charges will be released